former CEO, 78-year-old, really brilliant guy, said, "Why are you doing this?" Because it's exciting, and I am really a believer in consumer. So why am I here tonight? I've had a really non-linear career path, and up until 7 weeks ago, I was actually chief medical officer at Walgreens. And so why would I go from a $110 billion company to a $1 billion valuation startup here in San Francisco, Chicago to San Francisco, right? My wife asked me that. She says, "What are you doing?" My former CEO, 78-year-old, really brilliant guy, said, "Why are you doing this?" Because it's exciting, and I am really a believer in consumer-facing healthcare, and I think what we're doing at Hims and Hers and the whole telehealth space is really that consumer-facing healthcare. So, I took that kind of cold call email from a recruiting firm, and I said, I don't know what this is about. I went on the website, I saw a cactus, and I saw Viagra. I said, what is this about? What am I doing here from Walgreens to this? But the more I looked into it and the platform they've created and their ability to really reach consumers, particularly millennials, it really intrigued me. So I flew out here, a long flight from Massachusetts, where I'm based out of. And the biggest debate before coming out here is I had 3 kids that are millennials, so around the same age as my boss now, right? And I said, what do I wear? Walgreens, you come in with a tie, a suit coat, you shine your shoes. And they said, don't wear a tie. I would not wear a suit coat, but I wouldn't go that far. They said, Dad, wear jeans. And remember those things called Allbirds that Mom bought you for Christmas that you never wear? You must wear those. And so I showed up and I interviewed, and I really love the group. Andrew Dudum, the CEO, really has a good understanding of healthcare. I met the team, which consists of some really interesting folks. The woman who, Melissa Waters, was the head of marketing at Lyft. Andrew has a really great understanding of where healthcare is going. Some folks from Google and Google Health, and had a very good day of interviewing. And my last interview was Andrew, and at the end of the interview, he looked under the table. He goes, "Oh, you got some Allbirds. Those are really comfortable, aren't they?" And so then I texted my 3 kids with 3 thumbs up. I said, "You guys were right once again." So that's why I'm here. So anyways, I want to, this talk is called Retail Health, but it's really consumer-facing health. That's the way I would look at it. And I've been in all phases of this continuum. I wasn't like Marcus Welby, but Joe and I probably remember that, right? Remember we were kids growing up, you'd watch that, and gosh, I think that's why I went into medicine. So I did do house calls at one point in my life, but the majority of my career, 25 years as a primary care physician, family physician with a subspecialty in adolescent medicine, I did this. Remember those days, Joe? 25, 30 patients per day, rounding in the hospital, taking care of folks from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., Monday through Friday. He had the on-call services, and you just hoped people didn't call you at night. And they were very respectful. You rarely got called at night. And on weekends, you just wanted your patients to suck it up because you just wanted your weekend off. So you worked like a dog for 5 days a week. And then Monday morning, the calls came in, and the onslaught of, oh, I got to get seen, this and that. I hated Mondays. And that was healthcare for many, many years. That's a traditional healthcare, right? It's 8 to 5, Monday through Friday, on our schedule. But that's totally changed. Now it's very patient-focused. And as I say, the patient will no longer be patient. They really want 24/7 care. And so after working 25 years in primary care, including 6 years, I was with the Indian Health Service working on a Navajo reservation, which really informed the rest of my career. But After that, I took some leadership roles at a large multi-specialty group in Boston called Atrius Health, a really great value-based group. They take risk on 90% of the patients, learned a lot about Medicare Advantage there. And then I became a CMO of Hartford Healthcare, traditional integrated delivery network. And that was a very different experience than when I was at Atrius. At Hartford, it was really about towers, bricks and mortar, and getting heads in beds. And so even though I led all the value-based programs and risk-based contracts, I remember the CEO took me aside at one point and said, Pat, maybe you didn't understand your job. Your job is for us to get ready for value-based care, but not actually to do it, because we're starting to make an impact on reducing admissions and readmissions. And so this is the struggle that I think a lot of the health systems are facing today. I got recruited to Walgreens to really initially just to oversee their retail clinics. So if you think of retail health, 30 diagnoses, very convenient, staffed by advanced practitioners, mostly nurse practitioners, fairly popular these days. And when we started at retail health, 5 years ago at Walgreens, took the same grief and was getting the same pushback that we're getting now in telehealth. So it's like Groundhog Day. I'm going through the same thing again. But retail health is very well accepted, particularly our friends at CVS. They're going to have 1,500 retail clinics, and they have a very interesting strategy, which I can't comment on publicly, but I understand what it is, and it makes total sense for what they're doing, access points to care, and now they're tied into a payer. It's a good model for them. At Walgreens, I brought in a different model. Most of the clinics I transitioned to health systems because we did not benefit from the referrals. 50% of the folks that went into retail health don't have a doctor. The benefit to a health system when they run it, they can connect that patient right into the system. It creates that stickiness. We don't draw that patient into Walgreens other than for some scripts. So we transitioned the great majority of our clinics over to health systems, and it was a very successful strategy. I think the reason why the recruitment firm reached out to me is we did some pretty innovative things at retail health. We were the first retail clinic to bring sexually transmitted disease testing and treatment at retail clinics. That was pretty revolutionary. People, the health systems and such, that you can't do that. Well, we did. We got folks from Johns Hopkins verified our protocols. We rolled it out. We get, without any advertising, thousands of patients every month go to retail health at Walgreens to get STI evaluation treatment. We also rolled out HIV PrEP. There's 1.5 million folks in this country that need to be on, the antiviral medications for HIV prevention, and we're not reaching those. So that's been a very popular service at retail clinics. So we kind of pushed the envelope, and that's why it made sense for me to kind of get into this kind of telehealth space. And I want to explain exactly what we're doing at Hims and Hers and why it makes sense, and what we look at is really the consumer age of healthcare. Folks, it's really all about access and price transparency. That's where we are today. I'll tell you why access is an issue. I'm a dinosaur in some ways. I'm a primary care physician. By 2030, there's going to be a shortage of 50,000 of folks like me. There's going to be a shortage of 120,000 physicians. We don't have enough access points to care, particularly as the chronic diseases increase. We have 70 million pre-diabetics, 30 million diabetics. Every chronic disease category is increasing, the population is aging, and we have reduced access to care. So that's a huge issue. And that access is not just primary care, it's really getting care in this new consumer world where they want to get in on their schedule. And then price transparency. This is a major driver in healthcare. I saw a report, I think it was from the Healthcare Cost Institute 2 weeks ago. In 2020, there's a projected 6% inflation in healthcare spend. We've been around the 4s, 4.5. It's going up to 6%. It's not based on more visits. It's based on costs. And the folks from Blues know that, right? The costs are going up. Our prices are going up. It's not just about more volume. And so we've got a big issue with both of those. And I look at this as a really great study and slide developed by Oliver Wyman. It's really about consumers are taking charge in this new healthcare economy. Folks are going on the internet all the time to look for information online. 50% of people, and this is not just millennials, are Googling up their conditions before they see a primary care physician. They're going right to the internet. I'll give you a story about this. I tell a lot of stories. Most of them are true. This one is true because I always use my family members as an example. My daughter, about 8 weeks ago, had some really funky neuropathic symptoms and profound fatigue. She saw a primary care physician who she actually documented, saw her for 7 minutes and then put her on Klonopin. She says, well, you're anxious. She's had a baby or a young woman. She actually went back, didn't even ask me about it. She went back on Googled up all her symptoms, and she says, Dad, I think I have Hashimoto thyroiditis. I've got neuropathy symptoms, I've got fatigue, I've got these other conditions that line up with it. And then she called me, and I said, well, push the physician to get a thyroid panel. And sure enough, Hashimoto thyroiditis. And so she felt that in our system, her primary care physician was getting in the way of her care, that she got more out of going online and doing her research and then going and advocating to the primary care physician for her own lab work. And she came up with a diagnosis. That's where healthcare is going today. There's all kinds of apps out there. This figure is probably on the low side. And this figure in the middle about high deductible health plans, it is a major game changer. The majority of employers today, approaching 60%, offer high deductible health plans. Essentially what they're doing is they're shifting risk to the individual. Over 80% of folks on high deductible health plans never reach their deductible. Over 80% never reach their deductible. So that means essentially they don't feel like they have insurance. So they are very aware of what they're paying out of pocket. And they want price transparency. 91% want to know what things cost. In Boston, where I practice, you get an MRI for $350. You can get an MRI for $2,800. And there's no difference in it. In Chicago, there's a company called Smart Choice MRI. You can get it for $600 or less, and it gets read by Cleveland Clinic radiologists, or you can go to the Great Shiny Health Center in downtown Chicago, and it'll be $3,200. So people want to know what they're paying for. And then 70% of patients, they're just going to change providers if they're not getting the experience that they want. And so here we are at HIMSS. We really align with a lot of this. It's really kind of that frictionless transaction. Someone goes on our site, they get an encounter like a physician chat, and then they get products sent to them. So they don't even have to go to the pharmacy. Consumers are looking for multimodal access. They're looking for, can I get in on a telehealth platform? Does your system or is there availability of retail health? Is there urgent care? Can I get in to see specialists? Can I get into primary care? So they want many access points. They want quality, that high reliability operating model, and they want the price transparency. And they want more than just that transactional relationship. They really want something that makes them feel good as a consumer. So really I'll move along here. We talked about the high deductible health plan and the cost sharing. It's gone up 230% between 2006 and 2015, out-of-pocket costs. Significant change in how folks are paying for health care, and then the number of high deductible health plans are going up. So really this is where it all comes together. The on-demand services that we need to offer consumers, it's retail clinics, but that's only 30 diagnoses. It's primary care, but there's a shortage. Urgent care, I think, is a really good piece to this equation. Some of the payers don't like it because they think it's a little bit overpriced and some of it's inappropriate, but it's a lot better than that category emergency care. 2016 study came out and said over the last 8 years, emergency room costs went up 175%, and the utilization, went up 31%. The utilization only went up 2%. If emergency care was used appropriately, there'd be a $18 billion savings in health care costs. Folks are going to emergency for pharyngitis and $800 strep throat visits when it should be used for other types of conditions. And then telehealth, and that's where we are at HIMSS and HERS. Telehealth is something that we've been waiting for that wave to break. It's breaking now. There was a Modern Healthcare article out this week that said it's going from a $35 billion to $130 billion market in telehealth between today and 2025. And the promises of telehealth is reduced need for in-person visits. You can really take care of more patients in an efficient manner, great for access in rural areas. It has the price transparency and the convenience. So here's where we're different than traditional telehealth. We have a asynchronous platform. Does anybody know what that means? Yeah, it is pretty unique. So think of it as store and forward. We have what you'd consider a physician chat. So someone can go onto our website and say, well, gosh, I have this condition. This is what Hims or Hers offers, whether that be birth control pills or Viagra or hair products. And then they answer questions from a very structured set of questions that is absolutely aligns with accepted healthcare quality guidelines. That information then goes forward to a physician. Within a fairly short period of time, the physician reviews it and then communicates back to the customer saying, you qualify for these meds, we will ship them to you. Or they may say, we need to refer you out because you fall off of the protocol. The reason why this is an interesting model is the consumers like it. Many consumers don't want a face-to-face interaction, either with a physician or on a screen. They actually like the anonymity, particularly for some of these conditions that they consider embarrassing. The other reason why it makes sense is the model can be run very efficiently. You need less physicians if you don't have to sync up the online face-to-face visit with a consumer. So it's a very efficient model that also offers on the back end the pharmacy fulfillment. So there are a few companies that do this. We're not the only one out there. We have today 11 kind of products, conditions that we offer. I was hired to expand the scope of care in a very thoughtful way with quality as table stakes. We are going to get into other conditions. Quite honestly, with home testing, we can do just about everything we did at Retail Health at Walgreens off our platform. Home testing, you know, the dipsticks, companies like Scanwell and Healthy EA, you can dipstick a urine, gets to take a picture by a cell phone, you know whether you, with about 95% certainty whether you have a UTI or not. And then you don't need to see that patient face-to-face. They can go on our site and then get the fulfillment. Oral contraceptives, 20 million women in this country can't access oral contraceptives at a public clinic. So that can happen then too. So it's really a different way to look at healthcare. Where are we going? We're going to expand treatment options. We're talking to health systems around partnerships because they get it now. And we're providing that access and price transparency. So that's why I'm here today. As I explained to my wife, she thinks I'm less crazy than I was about 2 months ago. But I've only been 6 or 7 weeks in, and I love the energy in the startup world, and I really am aligned with where we're going. So,
thank you.
Thanks. Questions?
Questions?
Yes.
What are you expanding into?
I can't tell you all that. I can tell you it's stuff that we are very capable of doing off this platform. And, you know, that's why they brought me in to really make sure that we expand very, very intentionally and thoughtfully. Because there's some things we just can't do on that asynchronous platform. You know, there are other competitors out there, as Roman and NewRx, and some of the conditions, some of the things they offer is maybe a little different than ours. I would say, in general, where we're really going to expand is women's health. So we have an OBGYN from Stanford, who's one of the leaders at Stanford. She's full-time with us. She's the one that rolled out the OCPs. We're looking at all aspects of women's health because we think that's really an underserved population. And so look for expansion in women's health, I'd say. That's the main clue I'll give you. Yes?
You mentioned at the start that there was going to be a future significant shortage in primary care
Yeah.
physicians. You don't think that with the increase in algorithm medicine and the use of other providers, exactly what happened with your daughter will actually decrease the need for physicians significantly and allow for other practitioners, and that we actually won't ever have this shortage?
You know, that's a great question, and I thought of that. I think for some fairly straightforward conditions, AI is going to take the lead. But gosh, with the chronic disease and these really complicated patients, I think the primary care is going to be redefined. We're going to have primary care physicians, just like happens today with these Medicare Advantage models like Iora and ChenMed, seeing 6 to 8 patients per day that are really complicated and will never, ever be able to get their care off a virtual platform. So I think the way we practice primary care is going to change dramatically. The on-demand care, I think, is going to go to telehealth. So that's how I see it kind of dividing out. Okay. Thanks for having me.